Now, going to David Icke, we're going to play this clip again. It's very short. I'm sure David's seen it, but I haven't asked him. But here's one of the clips. This is a couple hours after the shooting Saturday, and they talk about Ayn Rand. They talk about another author, and then they go after David Icke for conscious dreaming, which I haven't really heard David talk much about. Now they're blaming me for the conscious dreaming because I'm in the film Waking Life, a Richard Linklater film that is about that. I mean, this is crazy now. If you talk about daydreaming, you're now going to cause mass murder. Let's go ahead and play that clip.
This man also talked quite a lot in these strange videos of his about what he called conscience dreaming, but I think is almost certainly meant to be conscious dreaming, which is an idea that also has been kind of tossed around on the radical right, in particular by a kind of British conspiracy theorist by the name of David Icke. So a lot of these ideas, his burning of the flag, his talking about the government as treasonous, and using mind control to control the rest of us. And so.
No, he was talking in class about could he be under mind control. David Icke, we now learned that they knew he was death-threatening people and were doing nothing. That's Reuters. We now know the media kept asking Giffords over and over again, nationally and locally, is somebody going to kill you? Is somebody going to get you? Pretty much triggering this guy. They can program people who are unstable now through the television. They don't even need to grab you. You're an expert in this mind control, David, and they're now coming after you. Let's get into what you think of this shooting and all the rest of it.
Well, the fact that they're coming after me makes me delighted, because if I'm rattling their cage, then I'm doing something right. The whole scenario is ludicrous, but perfectly predictable, because we've reached a point now where they are so desperate to push this agenda forward as fast as possible before the wake-up that's happening gets to a point where it brings it to an end, that the excuses now are getting more and more ludicrous. They're not even paying lip service to any even fake substance. Someone burns his bum on some small little device on a plane, and suddenly everyone's getting radiated every day in America in full-body scanners, thanks to people like Michael Chertoff, former head of Homeland Security and co-author of the Patriot Act. And now we have this situation where either one of the two, a guy who became mentally ill and mentally deranged from some sort of natural process, or quite possibly, because it's happening on an incredible scale, a manipulated, implanted process, it goes crazy with a gun, and immediately, on cue, just like when 9/11 happened, they were talking about Bin Laden immediately. The next stage of the whole thing unfolds where they're using it, and I have to say, I am so utterly disgusted and repulsed that these people can be so shameless to have no heart, no compassion, no sense of decency, that they can use an horrific event involving the death of a 9-year-old child, among many others, to push their political agenda, to defame and try to discredit those that are uncovering the very cabal that controls them. It turns my stomach. It makes me puke. This is the level of soulless, compassionless lack of empathy that we're dealing with the people that are pushing this agenda now.
It is just horrific to see this unfolding. Now, you've written extensively in the last 17, 18 years about Satanism and why we see it at Skull and Bones, Bohemian Grove, why we see it involved with almost every serial killer, especially those that go after children, altars. I called him as a Satanist instantly when I started reading about it Saturday, but on air Sunday. Then Monday morning, yesterday, the Newark Daily News and others had somebody sneak in his backyard. There was a full-bore tent, an altar. The family obviously knew about it. They're described as the Addams family by locals. Now their house is boarded up. I think the whole group needs to be investigated. But over and over again, and you've done deep research on this, there is extreme Satanism, but as you've proven, it's used as a template for mind control, and former FBI LA division directors that we've had on this show have gone over that as well. I mean, what's going on with this Satanism?
Well, you know, as I've written and talked about extensively, not least recently, the 3 points of the monster, if you like, in terms of this area that we're talking about, are Satanism, mind control and secret societies, and pedophilia. And those all work as one unit. It's not saying every Freemason's a Satanist, every Satanist is a Freemason. Every Freemason's a pedophile, every pedophile is a Satanist. But there is a massive connection between them, not least in the way they use techniques, not only, Alex, to mind control people and get them to act, react, and perceive in the way that they're programmed to, but also, and we've talked about this before, it's about getting people possessed by very malevolent entities. That's what Satanism and satanic ritual and manipulation is overwhelmingly about. It's about putting another malevolent consciousness in control of that person's body, so it reacts and behaves in line with that malevolent entity. It's no accident, mate, that they've been talking about possession for hundreds and thousands of years in every culture, and they're still talking about it today.
And if you look at Loeffner, you can't fake that. I mean, he looks like he's demon-possessed. And for those that are atheist or whatever, even if you don't believe this stuff, notice that atheism, in many cases, in his case, then leads to this occult voodoo with a skull and the oranges and the altar. That's what that is, ladies and gentlemen. And what is voodoo? Voodoo is possession by the spirits, and he was there wanting to be possessed, and I've researched voodoo. That's what that ritual is with a skull, by the top hat wearing skull, or the devil. In voodoo, he was asking to be possessed by the devil. That's basic criminology, and the key here is the globalists believe in this. When I infiltrated Bohemian Grove, they asked for the spirits of old Grovers to be there. They asked for the spirit of Moloch to enter them on videotape. I mean, even if you don't believe in spirits, folks, these people do. David Icke.
Well, the fact is, and I've talked to former Satanists all over the world over the last 20 years in my research of this, the hierarchy of Satanism is dictated by the power of the demons that possess you. That's why Satan is seeking more and more power and more status within these networks, are constantly seeking more and more powerful demonic entities to take them over. That's why some of the most demonically possessed people end up in the positions within the conspiracy, within politics and banking and business and military and all these things, media, and therefore it's no accident that all those operations working as one unit treat the world and control the world with such lack of empathy, lack of decency, lack of soul, lack of compassion, and it's everything is what is best for them, and the consequences for others are irrelevant. But there's another aspect to this which has to be spoken about if we're going to understand the Southern Poverty Law Center. It works with a network of organizations like the Anti-Defamation League and Abe Foxman, the Simon Wiesenthal Center, the American Jewish Committee, and others. And it's a network which is designed, and it answers ultimately to the House of Rothschild, designed to target anyone who gets too close to the truth about the conspiracy, to dub them racist, to dub them right-wing, to dub them terrorists and potentially violent. And this is what's happening now. The Southern Poverty Law Center, I mean, where the hell the poverty comes from, Alex, I don't know. It's got assets of $200 million. Mark Potok, this guy, Botox, whatever his name is, $144,000 a year. The president and CIO, Richard Cohen, $351,000 a year. goes and on it goes. It's a money-making organization, which, like the Defamation League, something like $50 million a year in fundraising, it uses fear and it uses the threat of the far right to get people to fund it to enormous amounts of money, and to keep that funding going. And also to do the job its masters put these organizations.
And then they train the police, and then they train the police.
People and dub anyone getting close to the truth as far right, and all the rest of it that has been coming out since this terrible event in Arizona.
But I mean, now they're attacking you, Ayn Rand. I mean, what's so threatening about Ayn Rand?
Well, what's threatening about anybody, Alex, is if they're getting close to uncovering the truth. And it is no accident whatsoever that they've turned their attentions to me. These groups had me in their sights back in the 90s when they were trying to get venues to ban me from speaking, and succeeded in places like Canada. But because what they were saying about me and what I say publicly, what I write, what I stand for, are so ludicrously different and opposed, it didn't stick. And this won't stick either. It's desperation. But it's no accident that on New Year's Day, I put out a major expose article across the internet. You can get it on my website. It's called "They Dare Not Speak Its Name, Rothschild Zionism," pointing out that Zionism is not about the benefiting Jewish people. On its play-out level, it's only a political philosophy. But the key point, Alex, is at its core, it is a secret society created by the Rothschilds, controlled by the Rothschilds, and it's there for the benefit not of Jewish people, many of whom incidentally fundamentally oppose Zionism, or Rothschild Zionism as I call it. It's there to serve the Rothschild, Illuminati, Rockefeller, subordinates to the Rothschilds agenda. And therefore, these organizations have seen that, where I show the staggering ratio of Rothschild Zionist agents in government in key positions before, during, and after 9/11, etc. And suddenly that goes out, and bingo, they start turning their attentions on me through the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm delighted, because it means it's having an effect. And if they think they're going to shut me up, well, they can try for the rest of their lives. It ain't going to happen. We have to stand up to these people, and we have to open our eyes to some of the agendas and the people behind them and what's really going on. All these organizations, Alex, the Anti-Defamation League, Southern Poverty Law Center, Simon Wiesenthal Center, they all say they're human rights organizations. When they are taking away human rights and even helping to write legislation to take away basic human rights, the Anti-Defamation League actually makes its money and also does its business by defaming people. It's Orwellian.
No, I know. They're constantly attacking yours truly. We got to go to break, David. We'll come back and continue along this line and get back also into the mass shooting and where you see this going. All right, we've only got David for this segment and the next, but I wanted to get him on because I did see his report on the free speech attack machine of the Rothschilds, and that really is who's financing it. I've done the research. And then you say, please don't lie about me. Please don't attack me. It's like, oh, you must be racist. And again, this has all been laid out. But these groups have gone too far, because now if you don't want government-run health care and death panels, they say, oh, you don't like black people. I mean, it just doesn't work anymore. And I want to get back into that, David, in the time we have with you, because we were having an interesting discussion during the break about Lou Dobbs and other issues that I was aware of. And then now Ventura's show, having some of the episodes pressured off air, and that's Homeland Security and ADL and others. I can tell folks, but I've been asked not to get into all the details. The problem is, once you're in people's confidence, you have to agree as a journalist to not get into, all the areas if they ask you not to, and that's their decision. But when you were talking about world leaders being into the occult and Satanism, it doesn't end with Ronald Reagan's wife being into astrology and all decisions being made on that. That's kind of the doorstep. Look at mainstream news with the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair being possessed every morning by a, quote, spirit and flopping around the ground and going to druidic sites and doing rituals. His wife being called a witch, is a witch. The head of the Church of England, now a druid priest. We have Francois Mitterrand, who built the 666-piece pyramid and admitted Luciferian. I mean, this stuff is not hidden.
Well, no, but also, we've got to be careful that, knowledge is knowledge. Knowledge and awareness is not good or bad. It just is. It's the use of it. And therefore, astrology is a science. I mean, we won't do it now. I'll probably never do it on this show, but I could talk for a long time about astrology and how it works and why it is. It's how you use things. And it's how you use this knowledge. And they use it in a very, very negative way. They understand, the people on the inside, how the psyche works, what the human body is, what the basic nature of this reality is. And therefore they use that knowledge to manipulate the people and the minds of the people and the perceptions of the people, even an individual target, for some particular event and horror, or the people en masse. And they do it by having that knowledge and keeping that knowledge systematically from the public arena, where the people can have some access of understanding of themselves, their reality, and how it's being manipulated. And therefore, not only is it dangerous from these people's point of view to put out information about the banking scam and the financial scam and the global warming scam and all these other things that absolutely need to get out there, they are terrified of the nature of reality coming out as well. And so they target people like me, not just for putting the conspiracy stuff out, which I do, of course, like you all the time, but the other stuff. And it's information. What they've created is an information bubble to keep the people in ignorance of so much, including the nature of their own self. And anyone who is threatening to burst that bubble, which more and more people are now, means they have to get more and more desperate, and that's what we're seeing, and more ludicrous in the way they try to discredit, stop, block those people who are threatening the bubble.
Well, look at how the ADL, Southern Poverty Law style folks, going after Lou Dobbs, who's a great guy. Look, I mean, this is not civil rights or human rights. I mean, these groups really are at the forefront of trying to shut down free speech. They want the fairness doctrine again, and people need to stand up and say no.
Exactly. What we need to do is realize, because it's not difficult, it's blatantly in our face, that these people have no interest in human rights. They have an interest in destroying them. They have no interest in freedom of expression or freedom of any kind. They have an interest in destroying it, because the masters that they serve want to destroy it. That's the reason that they're doing all this stuff. So if they are targeting people, it means that the people must be saying something right.
All right, stay there, David. 5 more minutes with you. We got a 60-second break. Then it's your phone call. Stay with us. It's our final segment with David Icke. We're only having him on for roughly a half hour. Your calls directly, I promise, call after call, coming up in the next segment. But David was getting into censorship, and it is the Southern Poverty Law Center, ADL, other groups that claim, they're fighting the Ku Klux Klan, and then next they're saying, by the way, you shouldn't criticize health care. You're a racist if you do. Or David Icke talks about expanding your consciousness. That's extreme right-wingism. I mean, this is crazy. But they know exactly what they're doing, and they're now moving to restrict free speech, to bring in the fairness doctrine, and they are losing a lot of credibility, and the globalists more and more are scared. And that was the point I wanted to get into with you, Dave. We were talking during the last segment, and you agree with my view that there is an explosive awakening happening right now, and that's why they're trying to move to start curtailing the web taxes, web IDs, restrictions on speech all over the world. The globalists are in trouble.
Look, when a human rights organization allegedly tells you that they've got to take your freedoms and freedom of speech away, well, actually something's clearly blatantly wrong. They're a bunch of liars, they're a bunch of hypocrites, and we've got the Anti-Defamation League that claims to be a human rights organization standing up for people's rights and all the rest of it. Back in the 90s, it was exposed for having people working for it that were infiltrating what we would call today progressive groups, infiltrating Arab Americans, infiltrating Native Americans, and infiltrating black Americans.
Police stations and stealing files.
Passing information to the apartheid regime in South Africa about them, and Mossad. This is the real Anti-Defamation League. This is the real Poverty Law Center. Absolute hypocrites. Garbage.
I interrupted you to throw in that the ADL was actually convicted in California, breaking into police departments, having spies, getting police files on politicians.
Even a Mossad front, Alex. It's a Mossad front in America, just like AIPAC is, and just like the Simon Wiesenthal Center is. It is a Rothschild Zionist front. And it's amazing to me that people like Obama and all these moralizing people in the media and these moralizing politicians, these moralizing pseudo-human rights people like Mark Potok, they can't get a microphone quick enough when something like this happens, an horrific event like this, but they are quite okay with mass murder by America and Britain governments and military of people in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, year after year after year. They're quite okay with American taxpayers' money being used for the ongoing systematic genocide against Palestinian people by the Israeli government. Yes, that's fine. They're not against violence. They're just using violence. Governments are violent. They are based on violence. Violence is happening now against people being foreclosed from their homes. Violence is being done now by the imposition of poverty upon people, real poverty, Mr. Potok, by the way, by the banks, and all these other things that are going on.
Well, David, we're out of time, but I want you to recap, because that is on record, that the ADL and others were passing stuff through Israel to the apartheid regime that Israel just loved. You know, that's the kind of stuff we're not supposed to talk about. Like when Jimmy Carter said that it's apartheid over there in the Middle East, everybody got so mad, but Israel worked with the apartheid regime, including on race-specific bioweapons.
Yeah, Israel is an apartheid regime every bit as much as South Africa was, and every bit as much as America was in the time of the version of apartheid. And it's not only an apartheid state in Israel regarding Israelis and the Palestinians. It's an apartheid regime even between different levels of Israelis and Jewish people. The way they treat black Jews from Ethiopia in Israel is little better than vermin.
David Icke, amazing, amazing. We're out of time.